So the big news is that your new album will be released next month. How did you approach the songwriting this time?
I don't know. I mean, I guess it was kind of status quo for us. I mean, we like to just take our time with things. We like to go out as a band, or at least as like me, Paul, and Trevor, and sit out and spend a lot of time out in the studio, just hanging out and drinking some beers and just hanging out and just coming up with ideas and putting stuff together. We did write some of these songs about a year and a half ago, and then we went off and got busy doing a couple of, a little bit of touring here and there, and then came back home and then did some more writing. So, there was 6-7 months or something in between, some of the songs that were written, and some of the songs, got written a little bit earlier, before we recorded. And we also wrote a couple of songs with Kenny, which was the first time that he wrote 2 songs with us on the new record also, so that was kind of cool.
And what was the advantage of recording it in your own studio?
Well, I don't know as if we could go to another studio nowadays.
Oh, okay.
we all just get so busy and scrambled and run around here and there that it's, I can't tell you how cool it is to have a studio, especially because it's here at my house. So, I can go out there at 10 o'clock in the morning and I can sing for 5 minutes if I want, or, I can go out there at 10 o'clock at night and sing for an hour if I want. So, it's really cool being able to track yourself, right here at our own studio. We wrap everything up at the end of the day and send the hard drive off to a producer and have them, put it all together and do the producing of the record. But it's great being able to track yourself, that's for sure.
And what made you decide to self-title the new album?
I don't know as if there was really one reason in particular. I mean, we all, kind of talked about it and this and that, and there was a couple, I think we looked at the artwork, this time around, which is just kind of a new twist on an older logo of ours. But when we saw the work that Andreas did in the logo, we just liked the way it looked on a plain black album with nothing around it. Mm-hmm. We also, there was just so many, we feel like there's so many good songs on the album that, I think everybody was kind of picking a different, title here and this and that. So it was, there were so many cool songs, it was kind of hard to pick one to represent, the title track. It's our 10th album, so just a lot of little things just kind of kept pointing for us to go ahead and just go ahead and self-title a thing. I think it was a good time in our career to try that. So.
Okay, and did you have any particular inspiration for the lyrics?
Not really. Lyrics are early on. Lyrics were really kind of weird for me. We've never included lyrics on any of our records.
Right.
In our very early albums, heck, there's lots of times I'm just screaming and kind of going for it. Didn't really write anything down. But the older I get, the more that we've done. I clearly nowadays I write full sets of lyrics for everything. We also did the lyric video, which that was actually the first time that I've published any of my lyrics. So we actually did the lyric video there, Turn in Stone, which kind of came out cool. We're not really like a political band or a satanic band or, really have any message in particular to get across to people. Just kind of with the way that I sing, I just kind of go along with the way Trevor's guitar sounds and the production, everything's heavy around it. So I just kind of fill in with that, fit in with that thing. So as heavy as I sing, you really got to kind of come up with lyrics that are maybe a little bit more angry or a little bit more morbid, something kind of cool to sing about. But really can't sing about flowers. It would just be a little bit weird. So it tends to be on the heavier type subjects, but nothing serious. Just kind of going at it, trying to find something cool to sound with the music for me. So.
Okay, and in terms of music style, how would you compare it to the previous album, Ink in Blood? It's tough to say. The albums are only 2 years, apart from each other. I think, it's just been over 2 years, since the last album came out. Mm-hmm. So it's, there's been some of our albums, like before Back from the Dead and Frozen in Time, both were, probably more than 5 years apiece before, between those records. I think just kind of the way we felt when we were done with it and why we decided to self-title it and everything like that, we just really kind of are really proud of this record. We really think it's some of the best writing that we've done, and it just screams classic Obituary. I think it just has everything that an Obituary fan is going to want. It's just got a lot of the groove stuff.
It's got some fast stuff and some super slow stuff, but it's got a lot of good groove stuff and a lot of good written songs, in my opinion, anyway. So it just screams classic Obituary to me. With maybe a little bit new twist. I mean, we got a couple songs like Sentence Day that has just all those long ribbon leads, which is kind of new. So, a lot of little new things, but just all in all, I think just classic Obituary.
And speaking about classic Obituary, do you still identify with the older albums even after all these years?
Oh yeah, when we play a lot of songs, we try to pick a couple, at least a song or two off of every album when we play live. So we always have to go back there. People kind of ask me that too. It's like, what do you think when people say, "Hey, Solar Rock's my favorite album"? And I'm like, I fully get it. I do the same thing. You ask me what my favorite Slayer album is, and it's usually, Haunting the Chapel or something. Show No Mercy, and my favorite Frost albums are all those old Morbid Tales and things like that. So. I fully get it. People when they find you and the first time they hear you, especially when they hear you when album comes out, they identify that, and it never leaves you. And it doesn't mean you don't like the newer stuff or whatever, but I fully relate to the same thing, and I like a lot of the bands. I like their earlier albums also. It's just kind of the way it goes.
Also, you guys started really early. You were super young. And you were in the famous Florida death metal scene in the 90s. What are your best memories of that time?
Wow. We were obviously young. I mean, we were, I know Trevor, Donald, and I actually played in our high school's talent show at one point in time, way back when, and that was silly. It was just cool, I remember, I guess the biggest thing that I kind of remember, is once we kind of get started was, is the local press around here kind of going off the deep end a little bit when bands like Morbid Angel and Deicide and Glenn with his cross in his head and all that stuff started. And it was just new, especially for, people in Florida here. So I remember the local news even covering a couple of, of us, a few times with some interviews and stuff. And it was the whole satanic thing, with Glenn and Morbid Angel and all this. And because our music's heavy, we kind of got lumped into there, even though that wasn't, we had nothing to do with that, as far as being like that. But it's just pretty cool and even to see some of these bands like the Cannibal Corpses and Deicides and all still at it today, this long later, that the Florida scene's kind of hanging in there. So it's pretty cool.
And I was recording the famous Morrison studio.
That was awesome. I mean, I wouldn't trade that for anything. I remember as young kids, we actually went into the original Morrison, which was a different building for the first album. But then shortly after, they built their new studio here in town, down the road from where it was. But it's just an absolutely gorgeous place. You walk in there and it's huge, and just all the technology that they put in. I mean, literally the control rooms that were, a separate building, even though it's one roof line. Literally the walls, they built two walls instead of one to have that gap in between. And when they talk about the air conditioning ducts and how the air turns on, you can't hear it because it's all insulated and this and that, and how all the power is separated. So you walk in there as a little kid and you see these mixing desks that are like freaking 15 feet long and all this fancy equipment. And I just remember, the first time we walking in there, we're young and we haven't been in the studio before. It's like our first time kind of walking in there, and you just get overwhelmed with all the buttons, knobs, and switches and lights, and just all the technology. And it was just hard to kind of focus on what you needed to do, just because you're just so in awe of all the cool stuff they got in there to play with. So, but it was pretty neat. You remember recording to tape. Which is obviously a lost art, but I remember Scott Burns sitting there grabbing reels of tape, and he'd edit it, and he'd take a razor blade out and really cut the tape. And I'm sitting there looking at him saying, "What are you doing?" He'd literally cut the tape and glue it back together again, and we're like, man. And that's how they used to edit it. And it always freaked me out too. So it was a lot of fun. You'd spend a fortune in there. It really cost you a lot of money by the time you sat around in there all day long messing around. But back then, that's just kind of the way things were done.
Are you gonna have your new album released also on vinyl?
Yeah, it will be on vinyl for sure. We'll do a couple different versions and maybe some picture discs or something like that. But we'll definitely have some fun with it and release it in a few different ways. And it's good. I mean, the sales of vinyl have been incredible, man.
Yeah.
They've just gone up a lot. So that's kind of weird because I think last year, whatever it is, it's like the first time that really digital downloads have exceeded the sale of physical hard copies in the music industry. So that's kind of weird, but it's that niche where, the vinyl just seems to hang on, and it's pretty cool, man. You kind of miss those days where, Slayer's coming out with an album, but, really the only place you saw it was like in that local magazine that you had because there's only one or two of them around. But they're coming out with a new album, but you couldn't hear it. You wouldn't know what the song title is. You wouldn't even know what the name of the album is. But you knew what date it's going to be in the store, so you can go down there and you get it, you pick it up, you get the cool vinyl, and it's got all the stuff that comes in the photos and the big picture and the artwork and stuff, and you got to listen to it for the first time. And then all that's kind of gone. Everybody as soon as you release it, everybody sees the artwork the first day. Everybody knows the song titles, they know the tracks, they get, 10 songs given to them before the album comes out. There's no element of surprise at all with the music anymore, but I guess that's just the nature of the beast.
And after 30 years career, what would you still like about being a musician?
We got to see, a lot of the world. I've been to like 40-something, 46, 7, 8 countries or something like that around the world. And, we got to tour with a lot of really good bands that to this day we still remain friends with and we see on the road all the time. So, the amount of travel and the people and the fans that you get to meet all over the world is just, it is really cool. It really is. It's been a privilege, and no matter what happens, in my career or whatever, I can, always take those lessons learned from all the travel that we got to do and the people we get to meet and things like that. So it's been really cool.
So there are really few countries where you haven't played yet.
There's a few withstanding that we haven't gotten to. I know New Zealand comes to mind, someplace that we have not been. We've offered a lot to go down to South Africa, and it's just not someplace that we're probably going to get to. But there's a few countries out there. But the bulk of the countries through South America and Europe and Asia. We've been through a lot of them, and it's great experience.
Do you keep up with the metal scene, or you're one of those types that still listens to the old stuff?
Yeah, I am pretty much a caveman as far as that goes, and I like all my old metal. There's no doubt, it's just kind of weird too. We might be on the road for 6 weeks, 7 weeks or something on tour, playing, and then you get home and it's, you don't really come home and you don't want to put a stereo and want to start jamming it after that. So it kind of takes a while to be at home before you really want to get in the mood and start jamming some music. At the same time, same with your recording, you're doing a lot of writing and stuff. You don't really want to listen to a lot of music because you're trying to write your own. And then of course you record it, you produce it, whole 9 yards, and now you listen to it for 10,000 times before it comes out. So once again, the last thing you want to do is really kind of jump in a car and crank the stereo up because you just, you've been pounding music all through your ears. But, most of the time, I like all the old music. I think like a lot of people do, whether it's metal or southern rock or whatever it is, I kind of dig the classics.
Do you have any plans for another Florida Metal Fest?
Yeah, we really did want to do it this year, and we kind of started doing some legwork, but between the album and the Exodus tour that we did, it just all happened right at the same time that I should have been sitting here trying to put that festival together. So we kind of dropped the ball a little bit, even though I have a relatively good excuse of, that we just weren't able to do it this year. But we are trying to gear things up and get the second one happening for next year for sure.
That's awesome.
We had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun with it, and I thought it really came out great. So we want to do that again for sure.
You also had John Oliver coming to the Metal Fest with you guys.
He's my favorite singer of all time, and he's just an icon and an idol even for everybody in this band. So the fact that he told us yes he'd come up and sing some songs with us, and we got to play like 3 Sabotage songs, and he came out and sang those with us. That was awesome. I can't believe the guys held it together. I didn't have to sing because he was up there singing, but the other guys, I don't know how they didn't mess up because I think they were just, all their eyes were wide open, their jaws were hanging open, and John Lee was walking out, and man, it was the heaviest thing ever. I bought the most expensive PA I could find in the state of Florida for that concert, and we're sitting there, and it sounded so killer outside of the Cuban Club, and just when they kicked into city beneath the surface and just. It was so heavy that, oh man, it was just brutal.
That was awesome, yeah.
Yeah, good stuff.
So in March you started tour with Creator.
Yep.
That must be pretty exciting.
It is, man. Obviously, Creator's just, they've been around for a long time, and they just always put out good product. They do a lot of good tours. They don't over-tour. They're that kind of band that knows, when to say when, and when they come out with albums, they do their touring, and then they kind of disappear. So they do it right, kind of like what we do. We like to tour, but you can't tour year round and nonstop. It's just you got to build up that demand. So Creator does it right. They're a great band. I can't believe we've never really played many shows with them. I'm not, I don't know those guys real well yet. But man, I can't wait for the start of that tour. We've been home for a little bit now, and to get the album out and the tour starting all at the same time, man, we're really starting to itch and get out here. We actually jammed today. The guys came over and we went over to stay a couple times, so we're getting geared up already and just a few weeks away, but it should be a good tour.
Do you have any other plans after that tour?
Yeah, well, we have a handful of festivals that we're doing this year. So we actually got a bunch lined up on the site and a whole bunch that we're getting ready to announce. So we kind of have a busy summer back and forth to Europe with some of the European festivals. And then we're probably going to scoot down to South America sometime here, or like April, May or something like that. I think we're getting down there. And we'll be working on setting up a full European tour. Either with somebody else or maybe headlining it. We're kind of weighing out a couple of options right now. So, we've got a lot in front of us here that we're looking forward to getting done. So.
Okay, so good luck with the tours and the new album. And thank you for the interview.
Yeah, you are welcome. Thanks for taking the time for us.